All right, folks, welcome back into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. And Carl, last week was our special show, primetime 5A5 on the show, talking some basketball, some mental health. We are back to our normal groove and playoffs right around the horizon here for many sports. Sectionals already done in some. We are in the heat of this winter sports season, which is a very appropriate way to describe it, given the weather we've had in the last week.
Man, listen, we're recording this on a Thursday. Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, I was in Cleveland, but the weather was the same in Rochester, I presume. 60s? You kidding me? Like what's going on? Like, I don't know what deal Mother Nature made this year with the earth, but I'm not complaining. I mean, I'm driving with the windows down in mid-February, blasting music. I feel good. So I don't know how long this is gonna last. If I'm not mistaken, I think we're in the 30s this weekend. So it was fun while it lasted, but y'all know me, man. 60 degrees February, I was in heaven.
I mean, I played tennis yesterday, and you know it's good. You know it's been spoiled when we're like, man, it's like 60 out, but man, it's really windy. Like, it's a shame it's so windy. And we've got 66, I think it might have gotten to 66. I saw, might have been like Dansville. It got up to 70, like something. Man, you talk about getting lucky. I mean, who knows what this means long term for the state of the planet. However, my kids got to worry about that. My grandkids are going to have to worry about that. I get to play tennis in February, so I'm good.
I'm here for a good time, not a long time, all right? And right now, I'm living a good time, having a stupendous time right now. I know Buffalo has had, some rough, I guess, events that's gone with the snow, too, in particular. But Rochester, I mean, we've had some flurries here and there, but nothing I had to shovel or nothing like that. So, I mean, hey, great so far for me. I'm knocking on some wood, making sure that, it stays this way. And, hopefully, come April, I'm talking this same exact talk when we get into lacrosse season, man. We got to go back outside to cover some sports.
Exactly. But for now, we are still inside, and we have got the playoffs on the horizon. As we mentioned, we're going to start our discussion here with hockey, which has begun the playoffs in Class A. They had their pre-quarterfinals on Tuesday. Class B kicks off tonight with the quarterfinals. Class A quarterfinals tonight as well. So we're not exactly going to break down every single game, every single matchup, just because by the time you listen to this, half of the teams in the bracket are going to be eliminated. So that's a great way to make us look stupid. But to start off, we're just going to kind of get the big storylines out. We're going to start off with Class A, where really at this point, the storyline is, the two teams at the top of the standings, McQuaid and Victor, both incredible seasons so far this year. 18-1-1 for McQuaid. Victor, 16-3-1. Both the two strongest contenders, of course, to win the sectional championship, and also strong contenders to win it all in the state tournament. McQuaid, number 2 in the state right now. Victor is at number 6. Other teams are going to have to worry about Pittsford and Batavia Notre Dame. Pittsford ranked 13 in the state, Batavia Notre Dame unranked in the state. But really at the top, it is McQuaid and Victor right now. It wouldn't be shocking, stunning if these two teams didn't meet in a sectional championship game, but they are certainly on a crash course. I did have the chance to get out to McQuaid recently, do a story on Mr. Rory Fitzpatrick, who we briefly mentioned on the show earlier, tried to wonder if he was in fact related to Rory Fitzpatrick, the former Sabres, former Amerks, played in the NHL for a long time AHL player, a Rondequoit native. And as you can imagine, Rory Fitzpatrick is indeed related to Rory Fitzpatrick. It is his son, the third of 3 sons. They also have a sister who played field hockey. But a really good time going out to that story. Gonna chat with McQuaid. Mostly the story focused on Mr. Fitzpatrick there, but getting a chance to talk to one of the players, Evan Kopaz, the coach. The thing that, as a team as a whole, and you can read the story about Rory Fitzpatrick on RochesterFirst.com, just the togetherness of this team. This is a team that went, I believe, 10-8-2 last year, just about 500, lost to Victor, got shut out in the sectional semifinals last year. They're 18-1-1. They're number 2 in the state. They're a senior-heavy team. They got a nice, strong core. Evan Kopaz, Jack Callery, Bodie Whaley, 2 of those players are seniors. All 3 of them with over 30 points on the season. It's a really dynamic team. They really love playing with each other. And I ask this question a lot when I'm out of my stories because I think it sometimes gives you some good answers. When is the moment that you really knew your team was going to be good this year? Like, was it a game, a big win, an upset, a practice, something that happened? And everybody who I talked to said the first tryout, first game of practice, first day of practice, it was intense. It was physical. Their practices are high pace, competitive, and that's just a really good sign when you can walk in a tryouts first day and you look around and like, all right, we've been thinking about this team for a long time. We've been looking at our roster breakdown, things like that. I think it's gonna actually come to fruition, and then that's what has happened for McQuaid so far this year.
Yeah, I mean the best teams are player led, and that tells me on the first day of practice when the team got together that the guys are looking at one another and was like, all right, you nice, I'm nice, you're a great goalie. Like, let's go and get this job done. Let's not mess around. They didn't mess around until a couple weeks into the season to get things on track. They knew from Jump Street that they were going to be a good team, and they've shown it this year with their 18-1-1 record. When you spoke about McQuaid and Victor, they met once this year. McQuaid came on top in an OT victory. So these teams had a little bit of history. Clearly, it was a close fight. Excuse me. I just want to throw out there Penfield as well. The record doesn't go up to par with Victor or McQuaid, but they recently tied Victor, who Victor is a team that we presume will be in the sectional final. But Penfield, who's been there last year, very young team. They lost a lot of seniors off that team from a year ago. But you tie your rival, tie a team in that regard. They're clearly not going to bow down in any way, shape, or form. So I thought that was a little alarming when going and prepping for this. I'm like, oh, okay, Penfield not going to bow down and not going to be an easy out come sectional time. And I know that coaching staff is going to get them boys prepared.
Yeah, and certainly as we mentioned, we got the two teams on a collision course. There are other teams that will certainly have a say in this thing. Like you mentioned, Penfield just tied Victor. I don't think, as I say that to lead off, I don't think I would be stunned if these two teams did not win in meet in the sectional championship game. There are some brackets, some sports, things like that. We're like, wow, these two teams are so far ahead. I'm betting the house on these teams. There's been enough chaos in hockey, and obviously it's hockey. You get a hot goalie, anything can happen. I've seen Victor play twice in the last week. We'll get to the other matchup. I was at that Penfield game. Wasn't blown away by Victor. Obviously, they have Max Pitts in net. He was the Division I Player of the Year. He's a phenomenal goalie. So no matter what his team does in front of him, Penfield got 3 on him. 2 of them were on a 5-minute power play. It's going to take something like that to get a lot of pucks past him. If you're going to beat Victor, you better hope your goalie lets up a shutout, lets up 1 goal, because you're not going to get a lot past Pitts. You also got Batavia Notre Dame in there. They've got a really high explosive attack. They have, as I pull up the stats real quick, they have several of the top scorers in Section 5. In goals, they have 2 of the top 3 in Class A. In assists, they have Jamison Mataika and Brady Johnson both tied for the top. Mataika, 23 goals on the year. I'm going to give this my best shot. Ivan Milivojevic with 20 goals on the season. So we tried our best here. I'm sorry, Ivan, if I got that wrong. But the thing with Batavia Notre Dame is they've played these teams so far this season. They lost 8-5 to McQuaid. They lost 4-2 to McQuaid, and they lost 6-0 to Victor. So maybe they're quite not at that level. And then, of course, Pittsburgh, they've done some great things in the sectional tournaments in recent years. They came as the 8th seed 2 years ago and knocked off Victor in the championship game. I believe it was triple overtime, might have been double overtime. Didn't quite get to Penfield levels, but that was a great game as well. So I'm not going to count out Pittsburgh. I'm not going to count out Penfield, Batavia, Notre Dame, even up and down the bracket. Anything could happen. But that's kind of what we got brewing here in Class A this week.
And for Class B, we got a team in Churchville Childline who, in previous years, has always been a team that's can put a lot of goals on the board, but maybe hasn't been as good on the other end. But they put it all together this year with a 16-3-1 record in Class B. But then also right behind them, who gets more love in the state rankings with their 12-7-1 record, is Aquinas. Their record is kind of skewed a little bit because they play a lot of teams from out of the section, so they don't lose many teams in Rochester, but take some L's to teams in other regions of the country. And then behind them, you have Schrader in the 3 seed, Thomas 4, and then Canandaigua 5. Churchville Childlight, that explosive attack, lived up to his name. You just saw them, I believe, this past Saturday. I believe, was that Victor?
Yeah, it was down in Scottsville against Victor.
Yeah. And you had a better experience than I did. I was freezing my tail off of that game. So shout out to you for getting inside the press box.
I got some pizza logs. Like, it was nice.
Yeah,
I had to pay for the pizza. If you guys want to buy my pizza logs next time, but I did pay for my pizza logs. You know, I support the kids.
Yeah, but I mean, this team, they're second in Section 5 with 96 goals scored on the year, and they have a three-headed monster. AJ saw them at their fullest potential on Saturday. This team is legit, but then also don't overlook Aquinas. They're 8th in the state for a reason. Aquinas also took down and gave McQuaid their only loss of the season. Now, I know that's a rivalry game, so you know how much you want to put into that. Having said that, they went out there and beat the Knights. I believe that was back in December, early on in the season. But Class B, I believe, is probably these two teams. I saw Schrader this year, the 20th in the state. They had some couple of impressive wins over Thomas. This bracket is maybe not as, deep as Class A, just by the nature of just how many teams are in Class B compared to Class A. But I would, like you said, you wouldn't be shocked if the two teams didn't match up in Class A, McQuaid and Victor. I would be shocked if it wasn't Aquinas and Churchville Childlight in the Class B sectional title.
Yeah, they have proven themselves a tier above the rest. You mentioned that elite line: Parker Farnham for Churchville Childlight, Max McKay and Tyler Eberhardt. They kind of took over the game at times. They obviously played a really tough Victor team. There were periods of the game where it was controlled in Churchville Childlight's end the entire time. Churchville Childlight eventually got the chance to break out. It was 2-1 final, as we mentioned. I think if they play 10 times, Victor wins maybe 7, but still, that's a really good Class A team that if you can go toe-to-toe, that says something. And we had with Rochester Sportsnet, they do some streaming, some hockey games. They were calling the game, and as I'm listening to Marty, I'm going to see if I can get his name correct because he's got another difficult last name. Marty Zelka or something to that nature. As he's calling this game, he's kind of just saying the same 3 names over and over again: Parker Farnham, Max McKay, Tyler Eberhardt. So that just goes to show you, A, how much this team relies on them. And they have some secondary scoring. I don't want to, completely count out the rest of the team. But that they are the straw that stirs the drink, to say the least. And, it comes playoff time, a sectional championship game, you can double shift it. You can, put these guys on the ice a ton. And if you have the top horses, I'm not going to want to bet against you. Like you mentioned, Aquinas really strong as well. And Schrader, as our third banana here, a feisty team, they just played Churchville Childlight pretty recently and only lost to him 6-5. So if you want to talk about a team that, Schrader hasn't, certainly been on the level of Thomas recently. Thomas has had some faults, but Schrader can do some things, and that should be an interesting team to maybe, it'll be maybe a Schrader 3-2 matchup against Aquinas. That should be a good game to watch in the semifinals.
You talk about double shifting. I don't know how they do it these days, but get your bananas, get your pickle juice, drink your water, drink your fluids. The 3-headed monster over in Churchville Childlight, they're going to be on a nice little regimen, making sure they don't cramp up and make sure they all righty come sectional time. They need my recipe. I was a big banana guy and a big pickle juice guy. Your breath might stink, but you won't cramp up. You'll be a fine player out there. I promise you that.
Exactly. And Schrader, some other recent results. They only lost 3-1 to McQuaid. They beat Penfield 3-2. So some good results there to let you think that maybe Schrader can make some noise here come the sectional playoff time. Moving over to basketball, the final games of the regular season will be occurring tonight on the boys' side. The girls have all wrapped up. So next week, we're going to have a more in-depth playoff preview. We got one more regular season, I guess you could say, show with our segments, our basketball teams of the week. And there were some really standout performances, statement wins, I guess you could say, certainly as we look ahead to playoff time. Carl, your basketball team of the week.
Going back to last Thursday, so I know I'm saying team of the week, so I'm stretching it out a legit 7 days. The Canandaigua girls, shout out to the week that they had, specifically a 20-point dub over Sutherland, who was by record the top team in Class A. It took all of us by surprise. I mean, it was from Jump Street. I mean, every time we checked the score, first quarter, second, halftime, third, fourth, they were comfortably in front that entire game. And Canandaigua's been a team that you've had them on your radar, but you didn't know how great they actually were. But then when you look back at their regular season, all of their losses were to quality foes. I mean, losing to a team like Schrader is no joke. Schrader is a team that's going to presumably at least make a decent run here in sectionals and possibly the state championship as well. Victor, Class AA foe. Penfield, Class AA foe. Fairport, and then Warwick. These are all AA teams who they won't see in the postseason. So they ended the season winning 7 out of their last 8, with their only loss being to Schrader, a big loss. And I saw them against Victor. I'm like, I don't know how this Canandaigua squad is. I know Maya Herman's nice. I know Kylie Chapman's nice, but I need to see it, right? But then I see the win over Sutherland when they play some teams in their weight class. I'm like, all right, hold on, wait a second. They may not be able to punch up with the best of them, but in their weight class, they swinging. And Maya Herman, as we've been seeing over her career here, phenomenal defensive player. And then when she can get her jumper going and get to the rack on the other end, good luck stopping her. Kylie Chapman's also nothing to mess with as well. Liv Shore, another guard for them that helps out that big two of them. Canandaigua, I mean, you take down the top team in Class A. We don't know what the brackets are going to look like, but I assume Sutherland's going to be the top seed based off their record. I mean, Class A is kind of like not really as strong as AA. But, I mean, Canandaigua heading into the postseason, they're like, you know what, this is our class and our division, and it goes through us at this point. So, shout out to the Braves for that convincing win last Thursday.
Yeah, the brackets have in fact come out for girls basketball. Sutherland is at the top. They've got the 1 seed. It'll be Canandaigua at number 2. And like you mentioned, that was a result where, you know, when we see it brewing on Twitter, we see the result come in, it really makes you take a pause and kind of, you know, investigate how we got here, the schedules, things like that. And, you know, obviously, you know, Sutherland, 17-3 record, Ellie Burgeon coming back from that torn ACL. So you talk about coming back from an ACL surgery. You know, what happened on February 9th when they lost to Canandaigua, that could be an entirely, completely different player, team in, you know, 2 weeks from now when they, you know, probably meet up in a sectional championship game. But when you look at when you, like you said, when you take a closer look at these schedules, it's Canandaigua losing to AA teams, really strong AA teams. And then you take another closer look at Sutherland's schedule where, you know, just with the nature of Class A and kind of how the rest of the section is shaken out, maybe the schedule, the record isn't as strong as we thought. So Sutherland's going to have their work cut out for him. Obviously, you know, Ellie Burgeon can take that team to new heights, you know, plus it's just one game. Like, you know, you have an off night, you know, we wouldn't be having this, you know, autopsy on Sutherland if they lost by 4. And the difference between losing by 4 and 20 is, you know, one girl, you know, has a bad game, the other girl on the other team has a good game. So a loss is a loss, as you point. So, but yeah, Canandaigua, that's an interesting, a good win that they had, and you know, puts them in power control for a Class A that has been dominated by Mendon in recent years, and now Mendon's all the way in the 8-9 game. So Class A for the first time in a long time is up for the taking.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I know Mendon had a phenomenal senior class last year, so they lost a lot of girls. But man, Canandaigua, are they going to be the first team to crack through, you know, the stronghold that Mendon had on Class A? That remains to be seen, but I'm excited for how that division and classification turns out.
Yeah, it was 6 straight last year. They took home their 6th straight crown. So if they want to make it 7-7, they got their work cut out for them. I'm going to the boys' side of things in a game that I almost made my way out to. Instead, I decided to go to the hockey game that we previously talked about. The Lyons. My favorite team name, that is. I love the Lions. You know, Bayheimville took down Aquinas. AA, big bad Aquinas. AA, defending sectional champs, did lose some players. Defending AA champs from Aquinas. They did not just beat them. They gave them a pretty good butt whooping. 72-55 at Lyons' home court. I saw some Twitter pictures, videos. It looked like an electric atmosphere for that game. Good fan section. JC Walker, 20 points, 20 rebounds. You drop a 20-20 on a AA foe in Class C. That's going to raise some attention. Jameer Johnson, 18 points, 11 rebounds. Jacob Sides, 13 and 6. Lions, we talked about them before, but this is really a statement win. 18-1 on the season, 7th in the state. They're the top seed in Class C3. We don't have a ton to compare about them in Class C3. They've only played one foe this year, and they're at the bottom of the standings. But, man, Lyons, a statement not only for Class C, a statement for the state of New York in just how legit they are this year.
They definitely put everyone on notice with that type of win. And I remember going into last year's sectionals, we had a similar vibe to Lyons with how they ran through the regular season, and we were excited to see how they did in the postseason. However, they lost their best player in J.C. Walker, and they took a big L to OAE. I mean, not OAE, excuse me, Oakville, Alabama, in the sectional playoffs. This year, presumably, they're all healthy. They get one last go at this thing and see how they rock. I mean, you take down Aquinas, who could potentially win the AA sectional title, and you're a Class C school doing that. I mean, you want to talk about pound for pound rankings. I know how kids are. Like you always talk about all the times, like those Class C, B, D schools. Man, we could have beat y'all boys. Like we had the opportunity to play you, and then as a AA school, you're like, nah, like come on, like that's not even the case. Well, Lyons can look them boys in the face and say, we're the best team in Rochester because we beat the AA champs. So like that's the type of like energy that you get out of the win like that can catapult you to a strong postseason success. I'm excited to see how they rock out. Not just, I'm not going to like put them in Sharpie for a Class C title, but you want to talk about a big win like that. I don't want to see this team in sectionals. I want to see how far they can go and see how far they can go in representing Rochester as a whole.
Yeah, and last year, like you mentioned, they had the injury bug, and they even lost a really great player in Jalen Battle from last year. So this isn't like one of those situations where the entire cavalry came back from this year. They were, they lost one of their top players, but they're back 18-1, and I'm sure the players who do have returning, from last year's team, J.C. Walker out with an injury, they're hungry. They're like, all right, we finally got the team. We're finally back, and they're looking to make some noise. And honestly, they're ranked 7th in the state. I'd be surprised if 6 teams in Class C really had a better resume than Lyons does this season. But yeah, that should be a good one to watch going forward down the stretch. And as we mentioned, next week we'll kind of go into full preview mode for our basketball sectional championships. We'll be in a little bit, probably past the pre-quarters and the quarters at that point, but we'll have a full breakdown of those brackets as we gear up. And we're going back to the big house this year. Blue Cross Arena, sectional championships for boys basketball officially back at the big house. One of, if not my most fun days of the year. I have gotten the chance to cover some games over at the big house. Carl has not since he's been here. So it'll be good to see Blue Cross Arena rocking that Friday and Saturday weekend for sectional championship time.
Yeah, the only time I've ever been in there for basketball was Monroe Madness when Q's brought their men and women's teams there. And I could, even though, it wasn't sold out, you could tell the energy and atmosphere it can get. So I imagine, a day where all of the best teams in Rochester are in one building with an arena like that, where everyone's on top of you, is going to be electric and lit. So that's something I'm looking forward to, because y'all kept telling me about it last year, and y'all didn't know if it was going to happen because of COVID and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see that aspect of this sectional tournament as well.
Should be a great championship for sure. And we've had some championships already wrap up in the books for some of the sports we don't get the most opportunity to talk about, but now we're going to highlight some of our champions that have gone past in the past week or so. And Carl's gotten a chance to go to a couple of these events. Carl's going to get us rolling with our sectional recap here. Yeah,
let's start in the pool. Swimming, Death Taxes, and Pittsburgh winning another sectional title in the pool. 21 in a row. They won 6 out of the 12 events at the individual sectional events, and they also set a Class A meet record in their 400-yard free relay. I was watching that race and trying to get the highlight and stuff like that. I kind of lost track on where they were because they had lapped the pool. I was kind of like what lap are they on? And I'm not really all too familiar with how swimming works in terms of how when the lap's up. But I just looked up. I'm like, let me just follow them for the rest of this race, because they are way out in front. So Pittsburgh once again dominating their competition and winning another sectional title. Canandaigua raising a brick in Class B on the swimming side. Class C is actually going on as we record this on Thursday, and the Class D will be tomorrow on Friday, February 17th. And then I also was able to catch the wrestling sectional championships. I was in person for the A1 sectional titles at Fairport. Hilton took the dub in that. Good season for them. They took home the dual meet sectional title in late January and then followed that up with the individual title as well for the team as a whole. 5 swimmers in all. 5 swimmers, excuse me. Get my sports all mixed up. 5 wrestlers in all took home and became sectional champs, which was kind of dope to see. So Hilton did their thing per usual. And then Churchville Chi-Li, their first ever sectional title on the mat. Shout out to the Saints for getting that done. And then going down in Class B, Palmac, Canandaigua, Greenwood, and Lindenville. It's always good to venture out and see the other sports just because of how our schedule works and how, because the Bills want to be good, all of a sudden our schedule goes a little bit longer than as opposed
Are
to
they good anymore, Carl? That's a bold take these days.
I don't know. The Twitter sphere and the message boards, you're right. They might be saying they terrible. Now, they might be like my Browns and terrible. But regardless, it's fun to see those sports. And I know we aren't able to get out to them as much as we can. But it was dope to see that over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, Churchville Chi-Li winning their first ever sectional championship. Last year, I got the chance to go out and do a story on HFL, who won their first ever title. It's always fun. Some of my favorite stories to see a team finally climb the mountain for the first time, get on top. So congratulations to Churchville Chi-Li and all of those sectional champions. Both of those sports, their state tournaments, I believe both of those will be next weekend is what's going on there. And then for my recap, we got bowling. We've got bowling this week going on. Thad was able to get out to the Class A and B bowling championships out in Gates. For bowling, Class A was Hilton coming out on top. In Class B, Gates Chi-Li, a big win over the rest of the Class B foes, winning by over 300 pins. Class C was Newark. Class D was Marcus Whitman. Both of those C&D schools, I feel like they have won every single time since I've been here in Rochester. So congrats to them. The top bowler of them all was Mr. Josh Winter of Spencerport with a high series of 1,418 pins. The girls championship C and D are going on today. A and B are tomorrow. So we're going to get out to those A and B championships tomorrow. You can find those on rochesterfirst.com. And then also, we talk about all this weather, things of that nature. Bristol Mountains keeping chugging. They had the skiing championships earlier this week in Nordic. It was Pittsford Sutherland taking the top spot for the girls side of things. In boys action, it was HFL on top. The top girl, Molly Heinzelman of Sutherland, taking first place, and Braden Valenzi of HFL on the boys side of things. In Alpine, in Class A girls, it was Pittsford. Class B girls, it was Dansville, Wayland, Cohocton. And then on the boys' side, McQuaid and Livonia, Class A and Class B, respectively. Trying to give some shout-outs to these individual finishers. In Class A, Giant Slalom, Rose Hagney of Canandaigua. Class B girls, Giant Slalom, Vivian Bishop of Sodus, North Rose Wolcott. Class A girls slalom, Sydney Harriff of Pittsford, and for B slalom, Libby Pickering of Wayne. And then the boys competed on Monday. Your Class A giant slalom champion, Michael Stevens of Fairport. In Class B, it was Nick Sturries of Marion Sodus Williamson. And then in the slalom, it was Blake Preston of Webster taking the Class A crown, and Nick Sturries repeating, also taking the B crown, Sodus Williamson Marion. So congratulations to all of our sectional champions, all of our athletes, our skiers, our bowlers, our wrestlers, our swimmings that are going on to the state tournaments. I know for the swimmers, not for the swimmers, the skiers, it's been a tough season without a lot of snow. Like, you can go to Bristol Mountain and compete. Practice has been a little bit difficult for them. So I know it's been tough for them, but congratulations to all of those champions that have happened in the past week or so.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I know I've been wishing ill will on y'all season, technically, when all this good weather I'm wishing for. I know it's probably hurts y'all season. But it's a little give and take. Y'all still won sectional titles. So, I mean, you still want a break at the end. So, don't get mad at me too much. But it's dope to see, sports like that who maybe don't get as much coverage during the regular season still shine at the end and raise a brick.
And there will be some more sectional action later this week. You have, as we mentioned, bowling coming up Thursday and Friday with the lower class of swimmings as well. Saturday, you've got competitive cheer championships at Gates Chi-Li, and you've also got the track and field championships Saturday and Sunday. Both events actually Saturday and Sunday. Those track and field championships will be out at Nazareth. So we'll be planning on getting out to some of those as well. So check that out on rochesterfirst.com. Check that out on News 8. But Carl, that'll do it for us this week on the High School Huddle, where next week, sectional championships, sectional playoffs, things of that nature. We always say it, but it's a great time to be covering Section 5 sports here.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? Yeah, I can't wait. I know the kids can't wait, and I can't wait to cover it. The intensity goes up. Level of play goes up. Our level of play goes up. Everything goes up. I can't wait.
Yeah, so no round ball roundup for you on Friday because, well, there are no games. So it's tough to do that. We have not hooked up 2K to these Section 5 teams, so we can't do some simulated results. But we'll be back for round ball the week after that, and then we'll have the doubleheader for the championship games. But you'll have to wait a little bit for that. But we get to relax a little bit on our Friday nights. Knock it out of the office at 1:30. But that'll do it for us here on the High School Huddle. Thank you for listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, rochesterfirst.com, or YouTube, all the ways to currently view our videos and watch them. Time to break the huddle. For Carl Jones, I am AJ Feldman. We will see you next week. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.